This is Angela Ward coming to you on the program People Helping People. And today, once again, by popular demand, Dr. Allen is in the hot seat. And we're going to be talking a little bit about where we left off the last time we did our interview, which is the culture of shame and violence that we're experiencing in our country today. And Dr. Allen, I would just like to ask you, what in the world is going on, and how did we get here?
Mm. You know, it's so important, Ms. Ward, when we have a kind of public health crisis. And I want to stress that the violence syndrome in our midst, it's not just a criminal issue, it's a public health crisis. And therefore, we need the skills of clinical epidemiology to understand it. And I think the most dangerous thing of our situation is, before we move to solve it, we have to have a conceptual framework to understand it. There's no doubt in my mind, having followed the cocaine epidemic of the 80s, not only in this country, but South America, North America, Europe, and other places, and written about 3 books on the crisis, I feel that this is a direct connection to what happened to our country in the 80s. And we need to see how that relates. In fact, if you would read a paper I published in the American Journal of the Addictions in 1995, I ended the paper by saying, I have one fear for my country, that this terrible cocaine epidemic will end up in a culture of death. I've lived to see that since 1995.
I remember you predicting that.
2009. And so there's a science here. And one of the hard things in a small country is we don't appreciate the science of it. Everybody runs off feeling they can solve this and solve that. Mm-hmm. But unless we understand the science behind what's happening, we will find that we'll get ourselves in a quagmire of doing the same old thing, the same old way, and expecting a different result.
Okay, so what's the first step? What do we need to do? Where do we start?
Well, the first point is to understand the conceptual framework. And I've tried to outline this. I've put in the paper to the Organization of American States. It was also in the paper in the American Journal of the Addictions, that wherever cocaine has been in the country for more than 10 years, it leaves a very powerful syndrome called the chronic violent drug syndrome, which I now call the culture of death, or the shame of failure. It has a number of components. The first component is has drug trafficking with a vengeance. When I say drug trafficking with a vengeance, what happens is that the cocaine cartel seems to grow their local executioners. And so in the Bahamas now, once ago we imported executioners, but now we have our own people who are killers. And many of these are young men, mm-hmm. and I've met a number of them, and they have no internal ethical structure. In other words, their character is totally different from the ordinary Bahamian. They can stump on your foot, or they can shoot you and actually feel nothing. And if you work with them intimately, I've worked with a couple, not those who kill, but some who've actually shot other people or beat other people. And once I get beneath the psyche, I find that the desire to hurt others is connected to a deep shame. And shame has 3 components. I feel abandoned, I feel rejected, I feel humiliated. And therefore, they call it being dissed. So when someone looks at them the wrong way, they feel dissed. If you steal their drugs, they feel dissed. If you look at their girlfriend, they feel dissed. If you hit their car, they feel dissed. And whenever they're dissed, the shame connects to a powerful rage. Anger is really the blockage of a goal, but shame is when anger hits the, as it were, the psyche over and over, producing a very powerful narcissistic rage. And as a result of that, people kill. And so at the root cause is this drug trafficking with a vengeance, which involves cocaine, guns, and marijuana. But in the midst of that, you have this powerful shame core in these shame-prone individuals. And when they feel dissed or shame, they either go to hurt you or they can actually kill you.
Well, how does this shame relate to the socialization process, to how the young people got to this point? What happened in their lives?
That's a very important point, and I'll come to that as we go down. So the first point is you get drug trafficking with a vengeance. And the murders that take place, or the shootings, take place where people are. Sometimes they take place in the middle of the day because they want people to see the culture of fear they're spreading. And Bahamians are afraid right now. Bahamians feel hopeless. Some have given up on their country. Some don't look at Bahamian television anymore. Some don't go out after 6 o'clock at night. This is terrible because fear is running the country rather than love. And that's always a dangerous phenomenon. But there's no doubt wherever drugs go, for a 10-year period or more, you have this culture of shame and fear. The second component is you have increasing amount of drug addiction. Now, as far as I know, I don't think we have many new crack cocaine addicts, but we're having a number of new cocaine addicts. In fact, from my recent work, I find that the social use of cocaine for professionals is now back in. Some professionals, after they drink their martinis at night in their parties, they go back and they snort cocaine. I want to warn you that what you're doing is killing our country. You may think you're just taking a little snort of cocaine and it looks good. You may be a professional, a lawyer, a doctor, an engineer, what have you, but you're contributing to the demise of our country because somebody's blood had to be spilt for you to get that drug. And then connected to that is marijuana. The chronic addicts go and they sell the marijuana to kids all over the place. Kids age 9. You can read the work of Dr. Jean Tanquest in Grand Bahama, Dr. Timothy Barrett here, Dr. Christie here, Dr. Dillett, and we see this plethora of the spread of marijuana. And so you have this massive amount of drug addictions, not just the chronic addict now, but we have professionals going back using a lot of marijuana, but also snorting cocaine after they've had their martinis. Now this is very important because in the happy hours, some of the young ladies are drinking the same amount of martinis as young men. This is bad because women do not have a particular enzyme in their stomach called alcoholic dehydrogenase, which breaks down the alcohol. So a woman should drink 1/12 as much as a man. But if you go to a happy hour on Friday, some of our blessed spots, women are drinking their martinis and their gin and tonics and rum and cokes just like a man. And so what we're seeing now in a very sad way, I have a number of young lady alcoholics, some 23, 25, already with acute pancreatitis, the eyes are all bloated, and they're really on the verge of becoming alcoholics. Many of them have blackouts. They go out on a Friday night and they can't remember where they've been. Now think of what would happen. Think of the rape. Think of being held up. And so we have this chronic addiction which is spreading in our midst and causing a havoc. Now connected to this is something very important. It's called cue stimulation. After a person has used cocaine for a period of time, anything that reminds them of that they can get money from will stimulate the cocaine urge. Recently, people are being robbed of what?
Gold.
Gold change, gold medals. I want to assure you that if an addict, a chronic addict, sees a gold chain on your neck, it produces a kind of quasi-cocaine stimulus in the encoded pathway in the brain, right down from the cerebral hemispheres down to the medulla. And PET scans will show you the desire for cocaine. I've met people who've killed for gold, and when they sold the gold to get the money to get the cocaine, the high they got from the cocaine was not as high as the high they got from taking the gold of somebody's neck. And so right now we have this cue stimulation in our midst, connected to the fact that you can get your gold sold to some place and you get money, and that money can be used for drugs or other situations. So the first one is you get drug trafficking with a vengeance, and then the spread of addiction, not only with the chronic cocaine addicts, but even our professionals, going back to the social use of snorting cocaine, and of course some of our young ladies blowing their heads out with these strong martinis. The third component is guns. Wherever cocaine is gone, guns, guns, and more guns. And for some reason, we have many powerful guns in the Bahamas. How they're getting in, I don't know. Where cocaine is trafficked, you always find that guns are also trafficked. Now, the problem in our midst is how to get those guns. And that's a serious issue. My point is this, I've studied it very clearly in conferences around the world. The two groups that seem the best at this, as far as I know, are the Canadian Mounted Police and the Israelis.
What, for getting rid of the guns?
Finding the guns. They know they have ways to get them.
What happens?
I don't know their techniques, but the Israelis are very good at it. You just came back from Jerusalem. The Israeli police are very good at it. The Cuban police are also pretty good. But what I'm suggesting is, why not have an exchange program? 25 Bahamian policemen go to Israel and bring 25 Israeli police here. Or 25 Bahamian police go to Canada and bring 25 mountain police here. By this cross-fertilization, we'll reduce the incestuous nature of our police force and open our country.
But Dr. Allen, a lot of people don't want that. They think it's an insult to the police force if we bring in foreign police.
Ms. Ward, I've been saying this for the past 20 years. I'm a doctor. Any doctor who feels he can treat every patient is a fool. A good doctor is someone who says, when I need help, I will get a consultation.
Takes a lot of strength and a lot of...
But that's what a good doctor is.
It takes a lot
You
of confidence
offer a person a second opinion.
to ask for...
We brought in the Mexicans to build Atlantis. We brought in the Chinese to build Bahamas. Are we going to sit here and die in the culture of death, let the country be destroyed and our tourism destroyed because we refuse to get help? We have excellent police. We have excellent doctors. But we need other doctors to help those doctors be better doctors. Right now, our police need help too. The country needs help. It's so clear. When Cameron had the riot situation in England, he called in for help right away. What's wrong with that?
Politically, it's not really correct.
Forget politics. We're talking about the salvation of a little country. The Arawaks are gone. The Bahamas had a Holocaust. Most young black men are dying. They're in jail or on drugs. Are we going to stand by and watch our young men be destroyed? I'm saying drastic times require drastic measures. Not politics now. This is survival. The Bahamas is on the brink. There's a very thin line between the jungle and civilization. We're getting close to the jungle.
I see you're very passionate about this, Dr. Allen.
I've been in it.
Yeah.
I've been held up.
What is your
I've
biggest
had the
fear?
Uzi right in my face. I've had the Uzis in my yard, but they've ordered me out of my own yard. I know what I'm talking about. I met some of the guys who carry the guns. It's a serious situation.
Dr. Allen, if we don't stop this, what is your fear for this country?
Well, think about it. How could NASA go up much more? You got the murders, so 104, 105. You got the shootings. You got the rapes. You got the domestic violence. And remember, every person that's a victim has a social file of 100 people. So when you have 104, 105 murders, you have 105 times 100 people who've been traumatized. Mm-hmm. When people are traumatized, they can't develop a country. They can't do education.
They can't work. They can't be proper parents. They can't be proper spouses. We can't support each other when we're traumatized.
So how could we stand by while Rome burns? How can we stand by where the Bahamas plummets into the sea?
Well, sometimes people think, I don't want to get involved. I just want to go home after work. I just want to turn on the television, watch a mindless program. I have too much stress in my life. I can't get involved. I can't take it.
Well, it's a very difficult time, and I know people are discouraged.
Yeah.
People feel hopeless.
Yeah.
You help me in my Wednesday afternoon family. You talk to some of the people. You see the situation, and I speak for them today. I can give examples of. One classic example is an old lady who's 78. She's been robbed 5 times. The last time the group came into her house, he said to the young man with the gun on her, he said, "Young man, your mother doesn't want you to be doing this." The young man said, "Mama, let me put you in the kitchen." He took her in the kitchen. You know what he said to her? He said, "Mama, you're right. My mother wouldn't want me doing that. But see that big one with the gun? I scared of him.
Oh, my God.
And so I'm going to tie you up loosely, and when I go, you get away." So what I'm saying is, Angie, you have guys who have, nowhere to go. They get involved with the criminal elements, and the criminal elements control them. And even though their own internal message from their mother says, don't do this, they live in fear and in control. And the poor old lady, who at 78 decided, "Dr. Allen, I don't care if they shoot me this time. This is the 5th time I've been robbed." And he said, "Young man, this is wrong. You shouldn't be doing this. Your mother doesn't want you to do this, and God doesn't want you." And the guy took her in the spectrum and said, "You're absolutely right. I don't want to be doing this, but I'm scared. They may kill me."
We have to take a break, and we're going to be right back. I would like you just to take a look at Dr. Allen's book and to know that a lot of the material that is on his heart is in his book. You can call the office, 327-8719. You can get a copy of his book. We are also putting our email address out there for your response. Bahamas, we want to hear from you. We need to know, what is it you want on this program? What is it that you react to in our programs? We want your feedback, ideas for future shows, ideas or feedback on the content of this program and subsequent ones. We want to hear from you, and we're going to take a break and be right back.